Hi guys, so this is your Tuesday video for Beyond the Borderline, and this week's question is, would it be possible to do a video on self-help techniques for the traits of BPD or things to do to manage every day? I think this is actually a really good question because, well, I'm thinking that the person who asked it doesn't do DBT, but DBT is basically, you go there and you learn the skills and you do it, so you do it yourself. So basically it is just sort of self-help, that you get told how to. So really I could sit here and discuss every single skill that they teach in DBT, but I'm just going to sort of tell you the things that I do that, well, I've quit DBT now, but I obviously use the skills, and still, and the ones that I sort of use the most is mindfulness. Mindfulness is a skill that in DBT sort of they teach it like as an ongoing thing. You have the core mindfulness section, but you practice mindfulness every session, and mindfulness is sort of at the core of the whole of the DBT sort of therapy thing, and I would say it's really helpful. Mindfulness is basically being mindful, being aware of everything, yourself, other people, the world, what's going on in your head, stuff like that. I would say mindfulness, in terms of using it as a sort of self-help thing that you can use day to day to help you with your sort of BPD symptoms, traits sort of thing, I would say mindfulness, using mindfulness as a sort of being aware sort of thing, you know, in terms of your interpersonal relationships, if you're mindful of what's going through your head and stuff like that, then you can be aware of sort of your BPD thinking, and, you know, instead of, you know, one of the traits of BPD is going from ideation to devaluation or something, you know, loving somebody and then hating them. If you can be mindful, be aware of when you do that with somebody, instead of just sort of letting it happen and, you know, really liking someone and then all of a sudden hating them, start being angry and yelling at them and stuff, if you can be mindful and notice that that's happened, and not be judgmental about the fact that that's the way your brain works, and that's how you think, you know, you didn't choose to suddenly hate them and be mad at them. I mean, why would you want to do that? I don't really think it would be particularly helpful. I don't think anybody would choose to sort of mess up their relationships by choice. So if you could be mindful and sort of notice that that's happened, instead of just going with it and going down on the little tangent of mad and hate and anger and, you know, going off on one at this person, if you can be mindful and notice that it's happened when it's happened, you know, you might be able to stop it at that point, before you cause too much damage. I'm saying this like it's easy, and it's not. You know, people go through DBT therapy and do it for years, and mindfulness is still hard. It's still something you have to work on to do. You know, it doesn't just happen. You have to put your mind to it. Uh, there's no real easy way of being able to notice things like this just like that, because it's not really possible. But I don't know, you sort of have to get yourself into a mindset where you can be aware, you know, not constantly thinking, like having a thought and then noticing it, like, oh, I just had that thought. You know, you don't have to be like that. You know, just every thought that comes into your head, notice it. You don't have to dwell on it, you don't have to think about it, just be like, oh yeah, Mm, mm. You know, you don't even have to like take time out of your day just to sit and listen to your thoughts. You know, carry on your normal life, obviously. um, just sort of, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but the way I do it is just sort of, I don't know, I can't really say half mindful because that sort of defeats the object, but just having a little bit of a conscious thought about noticing when things go wrong in your head. Um, Obviously, you don't need to be like thinking constantly about your thoughts because it could be a good day. Nothing could be going wrong, but mindfulness is really helpful as well when you're sort of getting urges to self harm. If you can be mindful and notice how you've gone from that situation into the urge to self harm or even doing the action of whatever the urge was in terms of self harm, even if it doesn't help stop you from self harming, it's a start to sort of notice um, how your head sort of goes from whatever it was you're feeling to suddenly self harm, because it does kind of happen like that sometimes. BPD sort of causes a lot of people to sort of just react. One thing's happened that's mildly upsetting, perhaps, although it seems really, really upsetting, and all of a sudden you're sat there with a blade in your hand or whatever. I don't want to be triggering, but that's quite often what happens. It's not always a long thought out process of I'm feeling really crap, and then so and so half an hour later, and you're like, oh, I would really like to self harm right now. I think it would be helpful or whatever. It doesn't always have to be a long process. Sometimes it just happens like that. But it's good to start noticing, things in DBT. There's something called a chain analysis. Analysis? A chain analysis, where you sort of make a chain of how you've got from one situation to doing something destructive. Um, and you can sort of do that in your head as it happens. Just be mindful. Mindfulness isn't about noticing something wrong and then changing it. Mindfulness is just sitting there and noticing it and letting the thoughts go. Um, I'm not saying that mindfulness is going to stop you from self-harming, because it won't. There's plenty of other things you could be doing to stop that. But mindfulness can sort of help you be aware of it, so that if the situation arises again, you can prevent it from happening, or stop yourself from doing something silly. Silly, oh, I hate that word because it's a really judgmental word, but you know what I mean. Um, I wish I could sit here for hours and then just make a chain of videos about self help things, but it's not possible. Um, but mindfulness is the core of DBT, and DBT is the treatment for BPD. So I thought I should, you know, maybe summarize mindfulness in a way that you could use as sort of self-help thing. It's not like an instantly effective thing. It's something that if you work on, it can really, really help. So yeah, that was Tuesday's video, and I'll speak to you all next week, and I hope that's helped. Yes. Okay, see you soon. Bye.